Good morning and welcome to this week's Elevenses brought to you by Google Partners. My name is Kelsey Bowers and I'm an attribution expert here on the UK.
My name is Adam Hetherington and I'm an attribution expert here in Ireland.
And thanks for hanging with us through the snowstorm, guys. It got rescheduled last week. So moving forward, we're going to have, instead of every 2 weeks, we'll have one immediately following this week. So today we're going to be talking about part 2 in our 4A's series on Google Attribution. So we're going to talk about how to choose the right attribution model for you and your clients. So last week, Suzanne and AJ introduced the 4A's framework about how we can grow our business and accelerate in 2018. So to start with, we talked a little bit about audience, how you can find the right people at the right time, automation, how you can use those machine learning capabilities to efficiently optimize your account, and then assets, making sure you have the right message in the account. So today we're going to be talking about attribution that underpins all of these and looking at how you can measure full funnel.
And the reason behind why we're looking at attribution today is that measurement used to be much simpler. So if we cast our minds back when a user went home, for example, in order to kind of find out information about your products or your services, they might have turned on their desktop computer, dialed up their dial-up, and they've probably gone through 1 or 2 searches, maybe directly to your website to purchase or to generate that lead. And that's a really, really simple user journey in terms of monitoring, but also in terms of optimizing towards. However, if we look towards what it is today, we have more devices connected than ever. Users have more access to those devices, and we also have more touch points in terms of finding out information about our products and services before the conversion happens. A critical thing about this that we found as well is that this online behavior isn't slowing down, but it's actually speeding up as we get more connected than ever online. So what we found, both Kelsey and I, is that many of our advertisers are only analyzing one small part of the consumer path, generally the last click before that purchase or before that lead is generated. However, if we actually look beyond that last click, if we look further down that user journey, insights emerge, opportunities emerge, and efficiencies emerge for our agencies in order to optimize their accounts and to grow their clients.
And so I want to take a step back and look at what attribution is. We've been talking a lot about it, but it's good to get a definition in there. So when we're talking about an attribution model is a rule or set of rules that determines how credit is assigned along various touch points in a conversion path. So I want to break that down again between measurement and attribution, because I do see a lot of confusion between these two. With measurement, that's going to be your conversions, your KPIs at the end of the day. So deciding what metrics matter. That's so if you're looking at sales, leads, phone calls, whatever that may be, we're not going to touch those. You're still going to be tracking your KPIs at the end of the day. With attribution, what we're going to do is decide what touch points along that funnel actually get the credit. So what campaigns, keywords, devices, etc., actually drove that conversion at the end of the day.
Right, and if we take a step back actually from AdWords for a second, and we look at, say, my making of my meal last night. So my conversion here is actually the meal that was in front of me, and that won't change depending on what attribution model we look at in terms of that measurement. However, what we're doing, and what we find a lot of our clients are doing as well, is that we're only looking at the last touch point in that journey. We're discounting, for example, all of the money that I spent on buying my groceries online. We're discounting the delivery man trudging through the snow to make his way to my house last night. We're discounting, say, all of the time that I've taken in terms of preparing my meal, and we're only giving full credit to the oven in that instance.
So then if we go back into AdWords, what we've got are 6 different attribution models that you can choose from. So if you haven't changed your attribution model in the past, or if you set up a brand new conversion, by default, you'll be using last click conversions. So within last click, what that does is exactly as it sounds. It assigns all credit to the last click in that journey before the conversion. So in this particular case, which is a fairly typical conversion journey that we'll see, of the 3 keywords that we have here, only the last one gets 100% of the credit. So what it looks like here is that A, we can't actually see what resulted in that last click, and B, it looks like you've got a little bit of an inefficient account because 2 of those clicks didn't drive anything. And then if you're anything like a lot of the clients that I work with, what you'll see is you have a really well set up account. You're meeting all your KPIs. It's doing really well. The problem becomes that it's very branded heavy, maybe a little bit of shopping and some long tail keywords. So when you have a KPI to grow the account, it becomes really difficult. You might have max out your impression share there. So if we want to grow the account, what we need to do is to start looking at upper funnel and looking at more generic keywords. But if we're using a last click model, we can bid on those keywords, but we can't actually see what it was that drove them to that final conversion at the end of the day.
Brilliant. So in terms of which attribution model we should choose, so what Kelsey and I have done is we've both discounted last click and first click models. The reason which we went through in terms of last click is it's only looking at that one conversion point or that one touch point before a conversion, but also first click, because if a user does convert, we know what has started them on that user journey, but we don't actually know what kind of finished it. So what we're left with is one is a data-driven model, so that's built upon your own data within the account, and we'll go through that now in a second. And also 3 rule-based models, so time decay, linear, and position-based. In terms of data-driven, what this model does is it uses the best of Google's machine learning on the data in your own client's account for each individual conversion. So it's built specifically for your conversion model, or creates a model for your conversion, and it assigns fractional credit to each of the most influential parts along that user path. Critical thing about this as well is it learns and adjusts over time. So as new entrants or new exits to the market, as users get more connected online, what we're doing is we're creating a consistent model, and we're constantly improving it over time.
So I want to break that down a little bit because it can get a little complex. With data-driven, to be eligible for a conversion, you have to have 600 conversions and 15,000 clicks per conversion within a 30-day window. And so with data-driven, what it will do is break down all of those individual click strings, so all 15,000 clicks, and start to look for similarities. So this is a very basic example that we've got here, going back to our original search. What we've done is we found 2 click strings that look very similar, so click B and C are the same. The only difference we see here is click A, the great tech gifts. What we then do is look at the difference in performance and assign that difference to the extra keyword here. And we'll do that again and again and again, looking at all touch points across the board until we've built a model that's custom to your data. So if we go back to our original example that we saw with last click, we've got those same 3 keywords here, those same 12 conversions. But what we've done is we found that in this particular case, the first click was actually the one that drove the most credit here. So these percentages, again, are just based for this example. Everything, every percentage will be different and based on your data. And it also can change over time. So as you do start to make more optimizations, you might start to see these shift around a little bit. But at a high level with data-driven, what you'll see is a model based on your data, and you'll see those fractional credits and conversions assigned across the touch points. But again, those conversions, the measurement at the end of the day is going to stay the same.
Cool. So that's data-driven attribution, but now let's look at the rule-based models. So these models aren't built upon the data in your account, but are actually ones that we have created to help you optimize towards. So there's 3 here if we've discounted first click and last click. There's position-based, which assigns 40% of credit to the first click, 40% of credit to the last click, and then evenly distributes the credits to any touch points in the middle. There's linear, which assigns equal credit across all clicks, so all of those touch points. And then finally, there's time decay, which assigns more credit to clicks that happen closer to the time in conversion. So in terms of choosing your model, now this is my favorite part, but what you might notice here is that we've actually left out linear in terms of a rule-based model. The reason for that is both Kelsey and I personally have found that both time decay and position-based are generally easier to associate and easier to use to optimize towards client-specific goals. So in terms of which models to choose, data-driven, use if available. Definitely do it, because it's created specifically for your conversion goal. It's created specifically upon your data. However, if not available, what we'll do is we'll look at time decay or position-based. Time decay is great if you have a conservative growth strategy. If you are a market leader, for example, and you're just looking to drive a little bit of extra efficiencies within the account. It's also great if you have a less considered purchase, if there's less touch points before a user generates that lead or a user buys your product. Position-based, for example, is growth-orientated. So this is a longer path to purchase, or, for example, if you are new to market. So if you're growing or intending on growing within the market, position-based is a great rule-based model in order to drive those additional conversions and to drive that market share.
And so everyone has a little bit of a different way of assigning these models, but what I recommend is if you have data-driven, definitely use that. And then if you're still a little uncertain about the time decay and position-based, and you're still kind of going back and forth between the list that we've got here, I'd break it down and look at the data and look at your clicks to conversion. So again, I personally recommend 1.5 clicks to conversion or less. Go with time decay, and if you've got more than that, go with position-based. Everyone has a little bit different number that they choose to that, but I think 1.5 is generally a good go-between here. So hopefully then you've decided which model you want to choose. Now you're ready to actually go in and change your attribution model. So changing your attribution model is fairly simple, but before we do that, we want to make sure we've kind of laid the ground rules and you know what you're getting yourself into here. So with attribution models, the first thing you want to do is avoid peak seasonality. So we are going to be making a change to your conversion, and it's good to have a steady baseline before and after so you can compare the results of the new model. So if you're a retailer, try to avoid changing it on Black Friday. And the second one that I want to call out here is fairly important. So that's that you might see conversions decrease on the day that you switch your model. So your conversions themselves are not actually declining. We're not losing your conversions. What's happening is we're redistributing the credit. So if you take, let's say, maybe 5 days on average to convert, if someone converts on the day you change the model, what we're going to be doing is redistributing to those previous 5 days and those clicks there. So the conversions will stay the same. They're just going back in time. And then at the same time, you might see conversions actually rise later on. So in 5 days' time, someone actually converts, you'll see data being redistributed back to the day that you actually made the conversion. So you won't be losing conversions, but the data might look a little bit wonky on the day you actually change it. And then finally, you just want to make sure to change all conversion actions. So if you have sales and leads and other conversions, you want to make sure to change the attribution model in each of those conversions. So you're ready to do that. You know you're avoiding peak seasonality. You can go ahead and change the model. So this, as I said, is fairly simple. You just go up into the tool section in the top right-hand corner under measurement, click into your conversions, and then go through each conversion action. So once you click into a conversion action, you'll see the attribution model section here. You just pick the model from the dropdown. Hopefully it's a non-last click model. Save and done. And as soon as you hit done, all future clicks will be going through that new attribution model. And so after you've changed your attribution model, we've given you a lot of really great data, but that data can really only make an impact in the account when you do something with it. So you need to make sure to act on this new data. So there's a lot you can do. As you know, optimizing an account is really complex, but here's a few quick things that we would recommend to optimize this data with. So the first, and this is based on the change that we see, is that typically you'll see more data go towards the upper funnel. So you'll see more credit be going to generic and non-branded keywords. So along those lines, what you want to do is add in more generic and non-branded keywords to start capturing that upper funnel demand. And then if you have those campaigns or if you add them in, what you also want to do is start to take a look at both the CPCs and the budgets within those accounts, because previously they may not have been getting a whole lot of credit, but now we're actually starting to see what happens there. So adjust the bids accordingly there. And then along those same lines, what we start to see is more credit get assigned to different devices. So mobile typically tends to be a starting point within your journey. So mobile will tend to get more credit on a non-last click model. So it's a good time to start going in and reevaluating your bid adjustments here. And then finally, we've given you a ton of new data here. Setting your bids manually is already really complex. And now you have conversions across multiple clicks. So we would highly recommend using smart bidding to help yourself manage some of these bids here. Perfect. So that's it for today with us on attribution. Hopefully you understand the importance of looking at a full funnel model and you're ready to switch your conversions away from a last click model.
Perfect. And make sure just to tune in next week where we will be talking about automation to help you optimize towards all of the changes which we will have made within the account today and starting looking at new growth strategies for your clients. Thanks, guys.
Bye.